Hi, everyone, and welcome again to my channel, where today I am going to be continuing with my connection spotlight, which is where I am actually shining a light on the light workers and the healers who dedicate their time and their intentions to helping everyone go through this ascension process, giving them the tools that they need for balance and healing along the way. And I'm very happy to have my friend Carmen, Croitoru.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm only going to say that once. It's a Romanian name, and we'll get to that. But and how we kind of met earlier. But I recently became reacquainted with Carmen, and it's been such a joy. And I appreciate your time today because I know you're a busy woman. Okay, so
Thank you.
Carmen,
Thank you
well,
for having me.
you betcha. So I'm going to just kind of go along from the beginning with her bio or with her story. She has many, many talents and healing abilities. She is an amazing healer. So we definitely we want to touch on all that too. So Carmen, basically, you have a website that you have posted under your video, all these things. And like many healers and intuitives, you had an awareness of some of the gifts that you possess. You have more so now, but as a young child. So you knew from a very young age. I don't remember what age that was, but can you explain a little about that?
Right. Yes, and excuse the dogs.
Oh, that's okay. They're family.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
they are outside. So yes, my name is Carmen, and I was born and raised in Romania. And I pretty much well, I didn't know I was special, so to speak, but ever since I can remember, I could talk to the grass and I could talk to the trees and I could see things. And um, if I touched somebody, or if somebody was close to me, they would feel better. I didn't know any of this stuff was not what else could do until a little bit later on.
Mhm.
But yeah, my whole life, as far as I can remember, I've always had an affinity with animals and nature and spirits, and yeah, just done my own thing.
That's amazing. And I did have to say, in your bio, what I really liked you saying was you made a very good distinction when you said, as a youngster, making people feel better wasn't scary, but getting sick from making people better was. So I mean,
Yes.
yeah, go ahead.
It's so the thing that I grew up in a very religious background, and in my universe back then, what I found out was not was more like frowned upon, was not like looked upon well. And I had nobody to talk to about any of this. So if people were around me or close to me and they would start feeling better, apparently what I was doing, and I didn't know any of this at the time, but apparently what I was doing is I was pulling off negative things out of their energy field. So automatically they would feel better. But I didn't know what to do with it. And I was putting it inside me. I was taking it on. And so I was sick a lot because it would take days and days of doing things in nature or whatever, even as a little kid, to get better from that. So that was a little bit the scary part. And because nobody could really figure out what was wrong with me, because it wasn't like scientifically whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
you know it ended up getting really interesting there for a while.
Well, how old would you say you were when you first came to know that this was something that you did or that happened to you?
So I remember being about 7 or 8 maybe, when I actually paid attention to people getting close to me. Now, Romanians are really huggy kissy. So it's
Okay.
we're Latin. We're a Latin country. So we are very friendly and outgoing and all that stuff. And when you meet somebody, you know, you kiss each other on both sides of the cheeks, and you're always hugging, and you walk arm in arm. That's normal. I didn't know I was doing something
Yeah.
extra special, because I was tuning into their feelings, whether or not I was a little kid. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like these grown-ups are telling me their problems.
Mhm.
But I was tuning into their energy, and just like, oh, that's sad, oh, let's pull that off. I mean, so in a way it was, but I had no idea what was
Right.
going on. And so I noticed it when they're like, wow, it always feels so nice to be around you, little kid. You know, that kind of thing.
So you
And
did
I'm like,
notice that people enjoyed being around you.
yes, yes. And grown-ups, I always had an affinity for grown-ups, not so much kids my age, mostly because there were not so many kids my age around me, but
Right.
I always had an affinity for older people than me. So it was just funny that they did too. And then I noticed them saying things.
And
So
therefore you probably conversed with them a lot easier as well. It was very comfortable. And
yes,
so you got physically ill many
yep,
times, but
yes,
obviously you were protected. This is before you knew anything about clearing practices and those kinds of things.
right.
Because you did live in such a community that frowned upon it. And I mean, you know, did you try to squelch it? Did you go through a period where you were struggling with
Yes,
that? Yeah.
yes. So that's one of my talents, being able to feel what other people feel, so then
Right.
I know how to make people feel better. So that got a little intense, to say the least, and
Sure.
nobody knew what was going on. And also me opening my big mouth and saying, hey, Jesus didn't say that. And that's not how that got me in big trouble. And
Oh, yeah.
so, yeah, in order to be more normal, so I wouldn't get sent to the loony bin. That was always like one of the things, you know, like I don't know
Yeah.
if parents in general, but there's always like something that they're like, oh, if you're like blah blah blah. Well, that was one of the things I was always afraid of, because the loony bin was not that far away
Right.
from my house. So in order to do all that, I basically said, no, I don't see things anymore. I don't hear things anymore. I need all this stuff to go away. I need to be normal. And that didn't and that worked. That really did work. I didn't know what I had done. I didn't know that I had like hidden that part of me so well, but yet it didn't feel like I was ever, like, I almost forgot all about it. I really
Okay.
did.
Okay.
And but you know, it always felt like I was missing something, but then I forgot what I was missing. But I was more normal, so
Well, you could navigate the world that you were in at the time. And
yes,
again, you were pure of heart. You were a child. You
yeah,
didn't have, you know, and so your guides, your angels, your posse, if we'll call them that,
right.
knew, you know, that this is what was in your highest good at the time to
Yeah.
protect you. So
Yep.
so basically then you say that because you could easily see these things, I mean, these gifts were something you have noticed for a long time or young. You wanted to help people, so you basically, let's see, what am I? You wanted to become a doctor to do that, and I think that there's a little bit of a funny story here, because that was your intention, because that's, if you're going to help people and be a healer, you think doctor.
Yep. So in Romania, it wasn't such a weird thing to be like the lady who had the herbs and blah 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 and would make poultices. That wasn't quite so off, you know.
Right.
But moving to America, that was I had the only way I could think of getting to help people was to become a doctor. And so I did everything I could. I went to a medical magnet high school and all this. And one of the things that was recommended is that you should go in a hospital during vacation and, you know, be a candy striper. I don't know if they still do that, but but
I
they
don't
did
know.
back then.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I went in to be a candy striper during my summer vacation. Every time I went into a room, if there was a needle anywhere being poked at a person, I would literally pass out, like more than
Yeah.
once. And so finally, the doctors and the nurses were like, you know what? I don't think this is the thing for you, because I kept pushing, like, oh no, if I just see it long enough, no. If I just,
Really?
oh no, I just have to, no. It was so ridiculous. So I actually have like needle shock on my chart just in case. So they notice that in case I want to pass out.
So I was going
So
to ask you that too. Even today, is that still kind of a thing? If you were to see something or have an accident at home or whatever, would that?
So in an emergency,
Yeah.
I'm okay. Like I'm okay with blood and stuff in an emergency.
Yeah.
But then I turn all gray and I have to find a wall or somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm okay in an emergency, but I haven't tried in an emergency with needles because there's no way in heck I'll be like poking something with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Oh, how old were you when you moved to the States, when you left Romania?
I was 12 and a half. So
Oh,
we
you were,
came here during communism,
gotcha.
and I was just turning a teenager and didn't speak English. I knew 3 words. You can tell my most favorite things: cat, dog, and toilet, because you never know where you gotta go. But those were the 3 American words I knew when I came to America. And so it was interesting in itself to come
Yeah.
here and go through all the hormone changes and all that right away. Like,
Yes. Yeah. And many formidable things that happen and help shape us as youngsters, and into our adulthood. So obviously the medical community, or at least the traditional way, wasn't going to be your route. So, but you
right.
still wanted to help people. So you thought long and hard. And at the time, you were good at teaching. So you went to school to become an elementary instructor, teacher? Yes.
Exactly. Yes. So after that didn't work out, I was really sad, disappointed. I had no idea because that was my whole goal.
Yeah.
And my teachers are like, "You're always helping somebody. You're always teaching them how to do stuff. Why don't you become a teacher?" So sure enough, I became a teacher, and I like the teaching of kids. I had no problem teaching the kids. It was just all that other stuff that went with the teaching that had nothing to do with teaching.
Right.
That was hard. And 20 years, well, while I was teaching, I'm like, well, I always ended up with the more special kids or more
Okay.
trouble kids or the more whatever kids, that didn't fit into other places, because somehow I was able to get through to them. And one of the things that I learned is we would do morning PE, and part of it was energy work.
Okay.
So they're just, moving energy around so that the kids could be, in their heart, working the best that they can do,
Mhm.
be present. And I'm sure that wasn't in the curriculum. I'm sure, but it worked
Right.
out really good.
Well, if there's one thing that children have a lot of is energy. And
That's
so,
right.
like you said before, you'd kind of forgotten about some of the things from the past because you needed it to navigate that way. And so I would imagine, along with your teaching career, and the more you ended up connecting with these children, because you were really working in your inner child doing that as well without realizing it at the time.
Exactly.
And that brought you back to, my goodness, you were missing the healing thing. You still felt a calling to that, even though,
Exactly.
a lot of ways you were healing those special kids that we know oftentimes get lost in the mix just
Yeah.
because nobody knows how to relate to them. So,
Right.
but that basically caused you to, and you had some other personal things, I think, that had happened at that
Yep.
point. But you ended up going to learn about what, brain gym and proficient in the in touch for health. And I was going to
Yep.
look that up and I forgot. Are you?
That's okay. So I realized somewhere through my teaching, like you said, that that's the part, like I remembered things from my past, and all of a sudden once the veil lifted, it really lifted. And then I was like, okay, well, how do I meld all this together, and how do I explain to somebody
Right.
what I am, what I do, naturally, without sounding like cuckoo bird, and I lived in Los Angeles, so it shouldn't have been that hard, right? But anyway, sorry, I know I'm gonna insult somebody, but it was funny. And so I decided to figure out how to help kids. So Brain Gym is actually it's applied kinesiology, but without actually touching, because I'm a grown up and we don't do that in school. And so, but the kids could do certain exercises that really were like gym, and they could get their body aligned, and they could get their both hemispheres of the brain aligned. So then it was easier for them to learn, and it was easier for them to go through all the vigorous testing, whatever stuff that they had to do. And so that was the first foray into the whole, how do I heal, but fit it into what I do now, because it has to fit into my life. Otherwise, what do I do? So, so I did that, and Touch for Health is really where Brain Gym pulled off from, because they focused on kids in Brain Gym, and Touch for Health was the whole adult thing. And again, it's just movements, little simple things that you can do to move, clean your meridians, clear things, and just kind of get the bumps out of the way and make things better. And it requires muscle testing, so you learn all kinds of awesome things that I still use today.
Well, things that everyone really would benefit by having those tools in their toolbox. Now that was all on you, right? That was something you incorporated, and as long you didn't find too much pushback, or like, what is she teaching, or did you have any pushback to that?
So I didn't really, but I did have people notice that my students were thriving.
Right.
And so when you get like some of the lower kids, and you get some of the trouble kids, and yet everybody is thriving, they're like, what do you do? And the principal was actually really open to me showing other teachers what to do, because there's like just some basic little things, like, cross crawling, just, opposites, so you can get your hemispheres working. They're just really tiny little basic things that, you can do in your classroom, like 5-10 minutes a day.
Right.
And it makes a difference.
Well, like you said, it's almost like incorporated in like good morning stretches, and we're going to get ready for our day. And honestly, I wish that more teachers or more schools would incorporate something like that. So that's a project that could happen, or it'll be different in the future, going in the future too. But, and we know now that many of those so-called children who are low on the totem pole, or slow, or whatever, or very, very active and can't keep their attention, it's because they're already bored to death, and they're so in the knowing, and they're so much at a higher level than we all are, and we just don't get it.
Well, and they just don't fit into the school system, little hole that they got put in. But yeah, that's what I found out, that most of the kids that, they call me ADD, not ADHD, because I wasn't hyper. I mean, I had so many names.
Yeah. Well, and you really shouldn't be putting anybody in a box. So this makes me want to look at those two programs even more. So, and then you say that, well, that was successful, and you knew you were on the right track and doing something right when you had success. And you probably commanded a lot of respect, even from the children. So then you got a hold of a book, and this book was The Reconnection, Heal Others, Heal Yourself. You read that from cover to cover.
I read that, and that changed my life in a different way. So up until then, I knew that if I touched somebody, I could make them feel better.
Right.
And that still worked. And that was one of the things that I remembered when I ended up getting back the download of what I had been missing.
Right.
And I knew that still worked. Well, with that book, all of a sudden I realized, first, I'm connected to everything. Like, I know I had that knowledge in my brain, but yet I hadn't necessarily put it all like together, but it just like slapped me in the face. And I also realized that, wow, I could actually from over here go and help energetically help family in Romania, or help family in Germany, or help family in Italy, or help family in, Romanians go all over the world helping. So I was like, I don't have to get out of my space to go touch somebody. And so I wanted to take all the classes. I'm a teacher, like, really. And so I have to take every class known to mankind about anything that has to do with any interest. It's just amazing. And so of course I had to go take and learn how to do that. And I was a complete natural because I was already doing it. And that was the other thing I realized. That book totally helped me realize that that really was, whatever they call it, it doesn't matter. The innate ability to actually do that, to move energy, that really was a thing that I was doing even as a grown-up.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh yeah, Carmen's got it.
Well, it was your validation. It was your confirmation that you were reading about yourself. And as you read that, it connected those dots, and the remembering was coming in
Yes,
loud and clear. And
exactly.
so you had said that you would go to Arizona, probably during,
Yeah.
then, every winter, whatever it was. And
Yeah.
you had this connection with the Apache spirits when you would
Yeah.
on their reservation land.
Yeah. So Harold, my husband, he's from Arizona. And so we would go visit family, friends. And you have to go through Apache reservation to get to where he lives. So there, we'd go, and I could feel as soon as, like, forget welcome to Apache reservation sign, like I could tell as soon as we stepped on the reservation or drove on the reservation, because especially the Apache, I would just get this overwhelming feeling of they want to kill me. And I'm like, and when I told Harold about this, like, holy crap, what the heck's going on over here? He's like, oh, that's the Apaches. They want to know if how good is your death going to be? And I'm like, oh. So, we had a conversation. I had a conversation with the Apache spirits, and I asked them, like, okay, if you overwhelm me, I can't help you. I can't. It's just like too much, and you're making me sick. And so every time we would drive by there, they would tell me things, and I would, share with Harold, and and they really liked me. They called me Sunshine. And then I had a cute little Maltese girl. Her name was Opal, and they call her Little Sunshine. So
Oh, that's cute. So to be
yeah.
clear, I mean, you were not talking to people, in
Yeah,
person.
I
You
was
were talking to the spirits of the land.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
were there many of them that needed healing themselves, or did they need some direction, or were they more directing you?
It was kind of both. So
Okay.
it wasn't me so much. Harold does some really cool stuff too. And between the two of us, we were working on helping the people, like the reservation land,
Right.
and of course, and therefore the people, thrive, because they have been the most tortured of, people. I mean, all Native Americans, I don't care what their tribe
Right.
is,
Right.
they've been the most harassed by the whites.
Yeah.
And so we were just working on getting the land to thrive, because the land a lot of the time just feels desolate, even though there's stuff on there, and there's people on there. So we were just moving things around.
Yeah.
And after that book, I was like,
Yes.
I wonder how this works. And so I'm like, okay, I put my hand out, and I like see what I'm looking at, as Harold was driving. So I'm just like next to him, just playing. And I'm just like holding and just like seeing like rainbows or what. I'm just trying to like send energy over there. And then all of a sudden I got this beautiful like image of me kind of floating up in the sky. And I was wearing like this long dress and, longer hair. And I was like, well, I've always kind of stuck with short hair because I look bad. But so I just saw in rainbows coming out of my hands, just going over the land. And then all of a sudden I hear like this grandfather, this Apache grandfather that would come to me a lot, and he's like, wow, now this land stands a chance. And like I'm bawling, and I'm like, oh my gosh, guess what I saw? Guess what? And Harold is like, well, then I guess we got to do this.
Wow.
So we this.
Yeah, I love that description when you're talking about that. And something also they noticed right away, because you would make regular visits to that area.
Yes.
Okay. And
Yes.
so after you had read that book, they came to you and said, what's different? They says your DNA has changed.
Yeah, I thought that was weird because they almost didn't recognize me. I mean, it had changed enough to where they're like, what?
Mhm.
And so it was really interesting. So I was like, wow, okay. that really, me connecting to, or to the energy, and me knowing
Right.
that the universe has got my back, and I have this, and I can totally do this. I mean, it wasn't like I went to the class and I was learning something completely new. It was like I already knew how to do it, and it was just amazing, like how that whole thing worked.
Right.
And that's one of the things. I don't really consider myself like I'm doing reconnective healing, even though reconnective healing is amazing, because that is in its own box.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I don't really fit into any of those boxes. It's really Carmen doing the different things that I've always done.
Right.
Just now I have like more power.
Yeah.
I'm even scared.
Yeah. Well, so what it does is it makes you authentic, and it gives you something that the world can know and connect that you do,
Exactly.
but you are amplifying it with your own individual knowing and talent.
Yeah.
So yes, you are making it your own and very intuitive, and that makes you that elevates you to a different level yet.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, anybody can learn things. That's for true. But
Exactly.
if you have some natural abilities that help you to integrate those new things and be more powerful doing them, that's a real gift.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and putting what you learn into what you already do, that was the thing. Like,
yeah.
I've learned so many things, but I took from each thing what fit with me.
Right.
And so taking that and then making it, okay, well, how does it work for me? So I don't fit into the Touch for Health, and I don't fit into the brain gym, and I don't fit, but I took all kinds of things
Yeah.
that work for me and
Right.
put them into my own whatever and played with them.
Well, there's a name for that, that we'll talk about later that you have put into that. So, but now we're going to talk about, you had a visit to the North Idaho area initially, and then you had experienced yourself a biofeedback, a quantum biofeedback session.
Yes.
And another light bulb went on.
Exactly. Man, me and light bulbs. So it can be dangerous. So we, in 2015, we came to visit our friends, Don and Carol Croft. And it was around Thanksgiving time. We had been doing a gifting trip all over during Thanksgiving vacation.
Right.
Harold and I, we would go on gifting trips, any kind of vacation. If we had a few days, then we would just go and we would gift Organite, which is another story we'll remember. And so we were on one of our gifting trips, and we were going to visit our friends Don and Carol Croft over here in North Idaho. And we got invited to come to a Thanksgiving dinner by a friend of us that lives on our mountain. And so I got to see North Idaho and the most beautiful, well, I mean, it's all pretty, but you know, I just really fell in love with this particular area. And during that visit, something had been mentioned about biofeedback, but I didn't really pay attention. And then when we came and visited again during summer vacation, it's at both Harold and I, one of the neighbors did biofeedback sessions. So we both experienced them, and we're like, whoa, this is really interesting. This is really cool. And I'm like, well, I have to know more. And so I started learning about it. And of course I have to go to school because that's just Carmen's way. And all of a sudden I got this like ginormous download, like, holy moly. It was, you know, when they're trying to like send you everything, not that I can remember everything, I just know it's somewhere in here, that I just like, holy moly. So of course now I had to know everything about that too while I was at it. And I don't think you can ever learn everything about biofeedback, so good luck with that. But
yes,
but I learned the best I could, and you know, got all my little certificates, and so now I also do biofeedback, and it's using my intuitive abilities, but in a different way. So
right.
because
Well,
to also mention,
well, I will say that is how I originally met you. So,
yes,
and I don't know, along about 2015 maybe or whatnot, I have a biofeedback machine too. It just kind of has gone on the back burner for me a little bit, because when you say you don't know if you'll ever learn everything about it, it is,
yeah,
it's pretty amazing what it does. And if you step away from it, then you kind of have to kind of get oriented again.
yeah.
So you were in the process of school or getting certification at that time, I would imagine.
It's so we ended up moving here. So we fell in love with over here.
Yeah.
We fell in love. I was bawling. It reminded me of where I lived in Romania.
Oh,
Now,
did it?
Romania has lots of different places, you know, we
Right.
have all kinds of topography, but this particular area totally reminded. And I'm driving by in the summertime and I'm seeing like all the green and the hay fields and whatever. And I'm like bawling and Harold is like, we're not going to move to Arizona, are we? And I'm like, um, and so he's like, well, I like it here. So, okay, let's look for a place. So while we were visiting, we looked and we found property. And then something told us like, oh my gosh, you got to get out. Like you have to get out of where you are. So we literally, we put an offer in on property over here. We went back home, put our place up for sale. Both of us told our jobs that as soon as we would sell our house, then
Right.
we were leaving. So please start finding replacements in the meantime. But and so we literally left. Like we came and visited the end of June. In October we were back over here for good.
Wow.
And we had no place to stay, no nothing. I mean, but the universe took care of us, and we ended up having place to stay and everything, and so we were okay.
Did you stay at a different place than where you are now originally?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, because there was nothing over here.
Right.
So during that time is when I started going to school. So end of 2016, 2017,
Okay.
I started going to school, and then I've been as soon as I got certified, well, I was giving sessions to everybody I could think of up and down the mountain.
Exactly. Practicing and so forth.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just the way that they kind of want you to do it too. But again, because of your intuition and the way you already just knew innately how to do things, that helps you be that much more effective with the biofeedback, because
Yeah.
it basically does a lot for you interfacing with the other person and whatnot. But
Yes.
yeah, but you intuit.
Well, yeah, it's a little funny because like I'll think of whatever my client wants me to work with, and then I look at the list of all the things they came up with that their body said, and then I'm like, okay, well, what should I do to help, with what
Yeah.
they need and what they want?
Mhm.
And so literally, like I get a little light bulb that kind of goes on in
Yep.
my head, and it'll highlight a line for me, and I'm like, oh, I need to work on this. Okay, awesome. So then I go to the panel, work on that, and I'm like, okay, well, what's next? And then some other little light bulb goes off. So like for me, I get to play with both. So I
Yeah.
have extra help of specific frequencies that there's no way in heck Carmen can remember. But also use my intuition and weave that around to see how can I help this person the best I can in the 2 hours, because I'm working distance, so they're not stuck on, for an hour. And so I can give them extra time and, and just and then people feel better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And there's
that's
lots of
awesome.
you can do in-person sessions with the biofeedback as well, but
Yes.
it's very
Yes.
effective. No, clear across the world, it's very effective.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you can even run some things overnight if you need to, and so
Yep.
forth. So
Yep.
I'm hoping that you've sparked me to kind of maybe look at it again. But some of the things that you say I really like. Since I've taken ownership of my universe and stepped into my own complete knowingness, I am truly meant to help people heal themselves. I've been happily helping people on their healing journeys in all kinds of ways. And
That's right.
that's
It's
completely you. Yeah.
it's totally me. It's yeah, it's a really interesting thing to take total full responsibility for all your crap, good, bad, ugly,
Ugly.
pretty, whatever.
Warts and all.
And yeah, take total responsibility and know like, okay, I am in charge of my universe, and I give the parameters of who and how big my universe is and who enters it and who exit, like who do I. And so once I knew like, holy moly, we all have our universe, this is mine, I'm the queen of mine, I'm totally the boss. And so it's like whatever happens in my life is my responsibility, and if I foobarred, then I better figure out how to fix it.
Right.
And just having that like complete knowledge that the universe loves me, I'm its most favorite child, And I'm not saying, I mean, and I'm saying every single one of you guys are its most favorite child
Correct.
also. This is not a Carmen can only have one thing. That does not work that way. The
Yeah.
universe gives to all of us this, you know, as
Mhm.
much as we want, what we asked for, you know. And sometimes it gives us things even when it shouldn't, because we
Right.
asked for it. You have to
Right.
be careful.
What
But
we
just knowing I am so happy, like every morning. It doesn't matter that I creak some days and whatever. It's just I wake up so happy knowing like
Yeah.
I can totally help. You know, if I make a little bit of organite today and I send some love in it, or I make a balm and I'm like sending love in it, or whatever I do today, I can put love and
Yeah.
just send it out there and gift the world.
And that's what, if anything, that people, you know, along with everything that you've said and all the things you do, but for people watching, I want them to take away and feel your love and your energy, because I noticed that, I mean, right away, you know, when I visited you too. And it is, quite honestly, in our human meat suits, in the lifetime that we've been born to in this, at this time on this planet, that is one of the hardest things for the average person, you know, as we're trying to heal and we're trying to give them a better self-talk, a better tape in their head. You are loved, you are worthy, you are powerful, you are, you know, you're enough. Everything about you is perfect. But do we believe that? See, you came in awesomely, you know what I mean, with some of that innate, unspoiled knowingness
And I kept it.
that people are craving, or people are knowing they have to work towards it. But to change the stinking thinking, as I put it, you know, the other stuff is the work and the hard stuff.
Yes. And it's so sad that the bad guys, whoever they are, have worked so hard at enslaving us
Yep.
that we have to um, take, like, work so hard to take back our power.
Yeah.
Because the universe, God, never meant for us to feel worthless.
Right.
It never meant for us to feel like slaves. It never meant for us to feel like I have to be this skinny and do this whatever and this whatever in order for me to love you.
Yeah.
Like what?
No conditions.
Yeah, it really was. And that's during one of my more than one almost or all death experiences that I came back from. That was and that was one of the things that clicked it for me also. One time, well, more than one time, but I really did kind of die, and whoopsie. And and when I went where I went, and I just wish right there, when I went where I went, I felt so loved. Like I cannot describe it. It's so enveloped, and I could see these beings, and I knew they were like my family, but I knew and I was expecting like the whole judgment thing, you know, like how you read about a book, like you're going to be judged. The only judging was from me to me. Like it had nothing to do with them. They were like, I'm like, how can you love me? Like, look at, you are love. Like, holy moly, like this was a most beautiful place I've ever seen. I never wanted to come back. They made me do it. No, they told me I was not finished. I had to come back. But I just, I can't describe how awesome it was. And yet I was like, but I am like this and I am like this. How can you love me? And they're like, every tiny little part of you is love. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you blah, 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 blah.
Right.
You are loved. Every tiny little part of you, we love you. We know you. We know all the whatever that this meat suit has done and what your spirit has done. And we still love you. And oh my gosh, the most beautiful, like white kind of, I don't know, I can't even describe it. Definitely not hospital. And then they're like, and I'm like, well, I don't want to leave. And they're like, well, you're not finished. And I'm like, but what's my mission? Well, you'll know. You'll know. Okay.
Wow. I mean, I can't imagine. I know that people who come back from those, I mean, you're never the same. You're completely changed. Even further so. What age were you approximately when that happened? Where were you at in your journey?
So I had just finished college
Okay.
and I was in Alaska. And in Alaska, you couldn't, well, back then, I don't know how it is now, but you had to go through all these hooplas to become an actual teacher there, like, you know, to actually get a job. Not that I wasn't a teacher, I was certified and never certificated, but to get an actual job that actually paid money. And I had bills due because student loans are going to be due, you know, 6 months after you
Yep.
graduate. And so I had to like figure it out, and I wasn't figuring it out with getting a good enough paying job to like survive on my own. And so then I called my dad. I'm like, Dad, can I come home? Like, can I come home? And of course my parents are like, sure. And my dad is like, I'll come help get you. And so so we both died. So it was just after I finished, it was in October. And both my dad and I came back. Both my
Wow.
we came back changed. And but yeah, it was funny. I mean, it is very funny now. It is very funny now.
Very funny, odd, whatever. I mean, it was,
Yeah,
it's there's so much that is that makes us who we are. And so this is part
exactly.
of your whole journey. Um,
Yeah.
I really, and when you say, and I love this too, I work and I live in love and light every day. I am protected by God's love and his armor around me. I've always known that I am God's most precious being, and God lives in me, as me, we are one. There's a story left for another time, you say. So going to the God space, opening the door so you and the universe can converse, and sending love and light to you is what you do best.
Yep.
So, and so basically, I will definitely put all of Carmen's information underneath, and she has a website, and she's been doing services in person, but mostly distance and whatnot. You have
Right.
clients all over the world. Um,
Yes.
Energy healing is one of the things, and we talked about the quantum biofeedback. And was I
Correct.
to know that that's kind of one of your favorites? You said,
So I like, it's funny. Well, yes, and but really like my most favorites are like the things that I do. So like the thing that who I am, the conversation with God, love, universe,
mhm,
that really is um the meld of I open the door and you, the client, gets to talk with the universe, whatever you call it, him, her, whatever.
right,
They're not picky up there.
yeah,
And you just, and it's
right.
unconscious or subconscious, I should say, not unconscious because you're alive. You're with us, so you're just
Unaware.
laying down with your eyes
Yeah,
closed.
yeah,
But I just am a door opener and I am the conduit. I mean, it goes through me because
right.
that's just kind of how that works. But I just hold the door so that way, you know, you can ask, say, hey, I need help with this. And you just put it out there and then leave it alone and see what shows up. Because, you know, while people's eyes are closed, they're noticing things.
Mhm.
Their senses are activated in different ways. And who knows, they might get the answer. Like some of my clients have gotten, they were very specific with their questions. And amazingly enough, they actually started getting pictures that had to do with their answers. Now, I'm not saying that happens all the time. And sometimes people just feel better, like they wake up, or once the session is over, they just like have different reactions to things.
Yeah,
They see things a little bit different. They feel calmer. The stress is kind of gone.
right.
They feel more connected. And even though I detach, you know, that doesn't mean that the client and God are not still connected. I
Yeah,
just pull myself away. But that door now, the door is already
yeah,
open and it's for you
yeah,
guys over there. So it's not like I'm sending, oh, I have to send this
yeah.
frequency. I just do what feels, move the energy around as it feels.
Well, like, yeah,
And then,
yeah, like you said, you're opening the door and you're allowing the client, this might be one of the first times they ever can quiet their mind, or they can get into a space like that because they have not known how to do it.
yes. And what some of my clients wanted to have, like, let's say weekly sessions. And after the session, we always get together, depending, because most of my clients, it'll either be WhatsApp or Messenger or like, you know, texting each other, whatever that doesn't cost money usually. And so I'd ask them, so what do you notice? And that's one of the things, you know, I want you to notice something, see how your monkey brain did it stop, or, and if stuff comes, it's like, I'm not saying meditate, like have nothing there. Just let things come and let things go. Don't stick on to anything. Don't like stress on anything. Just let them flow. And so we'll be talking, and they'll be like saying something, and I'm like, well, so how do you feel about that? You know, what are you noticing now? You know, what did you notice? And they'll be so surprised, like, oh my gosh, like, oh. It's really cool. It's really cool just to be able to open the door for somebody to have a connection that they thought they didn't have, or they needed to go to church for. And they don't, you know, and you can,
you're opening up a new world for them.
Yep.
And then that gets them kind of jump started on their journey. And then you have other tools in your toolbox to continue with that. You also like to do the intuitive readings.
Yes. So one of the things that's really cool is that I can see stuff, you know, like when and I don't do this just for everybody, you know, like somebody has to like kind of pay me or really want to ask me, because I don't open the door, mostly because I'd be bombarded, and I don't need I don't want to feel any more weird stuff than I already do. So anyway, so I can focus on somebody's energy, and I close my eyes and I can kind of see like a tree of life, and that's their tree of life. And each like thick branch is like a part of their life, and then like little, you know, branches coming off of, and leaves and whatever. So I can see like a person's possibilities. So somebody will have a question, it doesn't matter what, but it's nice to start with a question. And otherwise I just go off and tell you all kinds of stuff you don't want to know. And then I can kind of just like, okay, I'll tell you what I see. You know, what comes to me? It'll come to me in words. It'll come to me in pictures. It'll come to me in senses or feelings. Like, so I actually do get physical reactions to stuff because I opened myself up. So the things that happened to me as a child, that I was good at, not happen, well, that too, but what I was good at as a child, I still have those. I just tone it down most of the time, so I'm not affected. Like physically, especially physically, that's the worst. That's the hardest. But now I know how to make it go away quicker, and I don't have to be sick for days and days and days usually. Right. But yeah, so I can see things for people, and I tell them, and sometimes they want to talk with somebody that's passed on. And if whoever it is shows up, then you know, they can have a conversation, and I just let them know what they say. But yeah, it's really cool. Like I am multi-talented, like I used to say long back when I can do all kinds of cool things, and it just depends. The intuitive readings are really interesting because, like, let's say somebody has a physical thing, and all of a sudden I get a feeling like, oh, well, I can move some of the energy around. Let's see if I can make that better. I might not make it disappear completely, but I can shift things around enough to where then they have a better chance of making it work. Yeah. And so that, yeah, it's really awesome. I love it. You never know what you're going to get in an intuitive reading. I think those are my most favorite because I get to play. It's kind of like
what we used to say growing up as kids in the 70s. You go to the drugstore and buy a grab bag. It just basically a brown paper bag. You didn't know what was in it. Wasn't much, but it was a surprise. So that made it more fun, right?
Yeah, I think that's why it's one of my most joyous, because everybody likes to ask questions. And as I said, I don't intrude. I don't just go around passing somebody like, your so-and-so says this, like, holy moly, no way. To me, that's just like, that's messing with somebody else's universe. Like, you know, my kingdom, hello. So yeah, I don't go there unless somebody asks me. But when they do, it's really fun because I get to help. And it's just, did I mention I like to play?
And that makes you even happier because you're already happy.
Man,
and then one of the other things that you got into really good, well, first of all, you have zappers. Did that come before the organite stuff kind of? Because Carol and Dawn.
Yeah. So for me, it pretty much happened at the same time for me, because Harold already knew about all this stuff. And when I met him, even though I was way skinnier than I am today, I was way sicker than I am today. And so that he was trying to help me, and I was telling him my symptoms of, you know, what the medications were not really helping me for, just
Right.
messing me up more. And he was like, I wonder if it's EMF. So then he showed me like the orgonite, because he had orgonite on his house. And I literally, it was this kind of size. I mean, this is what I make, but it was this
Right.
size. It's just like a muffin tin, really.
Yep.
Yeah. And so this is like the simple basic one, you know, like
Mhm.
we call it field orgonite tower busters, that you literally, that is not so pretty and pokey. And then that one is for like under your bed, because it's a little one, not for a cell phone tower, but that'll really help underneath your bed, like help move the energy. Oh yeah, and the pretty pyramids. And those are mostly metal. There's a story with that one too.
Yep.
And so yeah, it ended up being that I was literally carrying two or three of these in my purse, which then became a backpack because it got heavier. And
Of course.
and it just got ridiculous. And then the zapper the original one is black, but now they make them all green. But the zapper, I was having so many things I was taking pills for, and Harold is like, I bet that's all toxins, like you just need to detox. So he's like, here, wear this. And of course I overdid it because the directions said to do it all the time, so I did. And then I like had a toxic load up the yin yang and made myself really flu-like for like horribleness. And I called Carol, and that's how I met Carol, because I called her and go, hey, what the heck? And then she explained to me like, well, you know, if you've not ever detoxed before, then you should like take it slow. And so I had to stop what I was doing and then, you know, put this away until I was ready and got to feeling better. And then I started 2 hours and then 3 and then 4. And then she's like, okay, when you can do this for 8 hours without feeling any sickness at all, then go for 30 days like all night. And I would just put it in my sock at night because it's the easiest, and the bottom of your foot is really hard, so it won't zap you. You know, you shouldn't get burns, bumps, nothing like that. And of course, if it ever pinches you or you feel uncomfortable, you move it, like, you know, solve the problem. And so then after that, I did the 30 days and I started feeling so good, like almost right away. And then I just kept wearing it. Once my body became alkaline, then I could put it in my bra, because very sensitive area. So then I just moved it around. Anytime it started pinching me, just moved it around, just kind of, you know, just a tiny little bit, so it doesn't. And then
or does it start to kind of actually zap you? Is that what you're feeling?
So it doesn't technically, if you are acidic, it can zap you. So even putting it on my arm like this, if I'm having an acidic day and things changed, then it can zap me. And you will feel like little pinches, like, you know,
Right, tingles, yeah.
Then you just move it, yeah. But if you are alkaline, if your body is alkaline, it won't zap you unless you've had it on for a really long time, like in an area. Like here, it shouldn't, because hands are very tough, like the palms, and again, soles of feet. But any other body part, it'll start zapping you if you get sweaty, because now water has gone in between. So you just need to like just move it a little bit. So I would put it in my sock, you know, those athletic socks, the white one, stick it in there because it can go on top of it. And then when it would start zapping me throughout the day when I was teaching, I just tucked it a little bit. By the end, you know, I'd be like on the other hand. And then I could wear it like 12 hours a day, no problem. And that's what I did. It kept me really healthy the last
and so it is taking care of like parasites.
Yep, it does. So anything that doesn't belong in your body is it's positively charged. This just floods your body with negative ions. So it basically boosts your immune system so hard, and now you're just like so like immune fine that if it doesn't belong, it can't live there and it poofs away. So it literally does kill them. But it's just because they can't handle life in a happy place. And so it doesn't matter what it is. Parasites, I mean, viruses, bacteria, anything that does not belong, it's going to be positively charged. That's why I always tell people, I don't want to go to the doctor and be positive for anything, because you know that's not going to be good. So if it doesn't belong, it's gonna go away just because this boosts. Now because this is called the Terminator zapper. With the round disc, then there's a T-Rex, they have the pentagon discs. But and there's other zappers out there. But this has orgonite in there. It has Mobius coil hiding, and this is an old one, so things have changed a little bit, but they haven't changed that much. And it'll have a Mobius coil in there, and that does its own cool thing. It has gemstones, a bunch in the orgonite for the amount of orgonite that is here. This is really heavy duty little guy. And then it has gemstones and coils in here, and they're all attached. I mean, this is like a little device that actually is really cool. And it works at the Schumann resonance times 2. So depending on your 9-volt battery, it'll be between 15 and 16. But what they meant it to work at was, 7.86 times 2 is what they were going for when they had these set up. And this was before all this like Schumann resonance, the earth change. I mean, it's funny because these started like in the mid to late 90s. But Don and Carol were they were the pioneers.
They were the pioneers of that. Yeah. I remember seeing those for the first time a few years after I initially met you at the Holistic Festival, and you had those zappers. I didn't buy one, and now I'm kicking myself, but definitely going to do that because everybody can benefit from that.
And there's always parasite. You can't help it. You're going to pick up stuff. Anybody who says, blah, 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 I detox, whatever, you're always having to detox. This is not a one time and you're done. And this does not have to be the only tool that you use.
Right.
There's other things like, so this one does it electronically. This one does it chemically.
Your spray.
Yeah, and the CDS spray. Man, I spray my eyeballs with mine. I do. Because I mean, and technically you're okay with that. And so this part you have to actually keep refrigerated, but you put just a little bit of this in your water, and then that water, I call it the CDS water, you just drink that throughout the day. It'll kill the parasites and whatever, blah, 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 does not belong to.
Yeah, right.
They just go about it differently.
Yeah, and in combination, whatever, but all this is on her website, but that's the CDS. So it's ready-made chlorine dioxide solution. And you make it all, and then with your intuitive awareness, and again, obviously, Carol and Don Croft were instrumental in a lot of this, getting you there, all kinds of things. They both have passed now, right? They're both
gone.
But they both really passed along their knowledge with the orgonite and with a lot of that stuff going forward, so that you. I think we'll do something a little bit later on some of the things that you want to share on that, because you have quite the workshop. And right behind you is the
they're the 108s. So these the little Chinese checkerboards. They actually have 108 pieces of orgonite in there. So every single one of those has 108. The bottom one, the bigger one, I actually originally saw a tree of life. And so this one works, it's directional, works more on your chakras, and balances things, but you have to be careful with the direction. And then later I got a different download about like, we need something to help us with the ascension process, because there's so much going on with that.
While you're doing that, while you're doing that, I'm going to share screen because I have a close up of that. So I think.
Okay, awesome.
So keep talking.
And and so the little one, it's a different recipe, but again, orgonite, and and those are my. She visited my workshop, so those are. And there they are.
There's a close-up of them. I can get a little bit bigger, but they're amazing.
Yeah, and it's I didn't think to show, but just imagine a seed of life pattern or a flower of life. See that one up there, the blue, that's a seed of life. So that's basically what that pattern is over behind. And you just have to like see, and anywhere anything touch, basically that's where one of the little orgonite things go. And the cool thing about the mini 108s is from one of our gifting trips, and actually it was funny because it's the same gifting trips that we came over here for Thanksgiving. but we met Brian Besco over at Twisted Sage, and he and Harold were talking, and Harold is an engineer, and so he was like, oh well, from this pyramid in Tenochtitlan, or I don't know, I suck at all that, but one of the pyramids, they were able to intuit, somehow they got the download of the exact measurement of ohm, and it's
Oh,
like 41 blah 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 blah, a whole bunch of stuff after it.
right.
And so Harold, being Harold, is like, I wonder if I can make things resonate to ohm. And sure enough, we muscle tested all this stuff. He played with all kinds of things. And sure enough, if the measurement is just right, in some way, so it doesn't have to be exact, but it can be like a half of it or double it, whatever it, but it has to be some kind of resonance. It'll really make a difference. And why not? The creation.
Right.
These have the distance in between them.
Right.
The distance is made to resonate with ohm. And so, and there's big ginormous one actually put in the ground.
Right.
We even have a 44-foot one. And so these ones hook up with that whole network. So now we have basically like a 108 network that resonates to ohm. And earth pipes resonate to ohm. And I mean, it's, if I can make it resonate to ohm, we do. We do.
Yeah. And I think it'd be fun to share with them at some other later time, you know, where you have that at, you have, it's a spiral. It's not a,
yes. Yeah. I put a spiral on top of this. So I have this, but a ginormous 44 feet across with the bigger hockey pucks, ones that we showed you.
Right.
And then on top of it, I got a different download. Because Carmen and her downloads, I call them naps. I wake up from a nap and I end up with a download. It's like, and I have a spiral on top of that one, and that one came. Yeah, there's the website.
There's your, and then basically this little, I think that there was something that you explained, that was your creation, your own little logo.
Yes. So originally, because I was working more in my, I should say, I was working more in my left brain when I originally started trying to put myself in a box that people didn't think was crazy in America. So I was coming up with like, everybody needs a logo, and I didn't want to pay somebody who I didn't know to make me a logo that goes with whatever. And so I just kept like trying different things, and my original business had bees. It was like brain and body in balance. And so I had all these bees because I like eights and, you know, anything, eight-ish, and infinity symbols, that kind of thing. So I kept playing around and nothing was really working. And I was just kind of doodling with Sharpies. And I'm like, one of the things I had learned in Brain Gym and Touch for Health is like just focusing and getting both your brains to work together. So I'm just like, just play with my hands. So I took one blue and one green Sharpie, and I'm like, okay, universe, help me out here. And I literally drew the outline, both hands at the same time, just like that. Poof.
Wow.
And I'm, whoa, that looks kind of cool. Now I like color.
If you have a bigger one of it somewhere, whatever, but it's beautiful, and it's what you have stamped on all of your cards. Of course, I'll get cards, exactly. But you also, when this because everything's listed on there, we'll kind of go through it, but with your Intuit or your intuition, your friend Carol, there was a lot of requests for some specializing. So just like I showed those special pendants that you make with the orgonite, you also intuit into the oils that the essential oils that you blend.
Yes.
And the balms and stuff.
Yeah, so Carol was getting a lot of requests. She made a lot of pendants. She made really amazing orgonite. She's the one that taught me how to do it all. And she was getting requests for specialty pendants, and that's what you showed them. And so with that, she was she said she would like have like different whatevers. And so I started, well, actually before her, I started intuiting what kind of essential oils will help a problem. I actually started that when I was teaching, because man, I was getting headaches from all those grown-ups, and stress from trying to like be all perfect and actually teaching kids when everybody else was trying not to help us. So I started playing with the essential oils that I had, and I'm not ever telling people that they should do anything like ingesting or anything like that with essential oils. You have to be so careful what kind of oils you buy. If you
Right.
buy your oil on Amazon, don't put it anywhere near your mouth. Actually, I wouldn't buy any oil off of Amazon. I wouldn't buy my oil from the grocery store because that's crap. They have been tested. This really famous dude called Dr. Pappas, his company tests most of the essential oil companies, and he's tested oils from all over the place. And pretty much invariably, everything on Amazon that he's tested was bad. Like there was either a very tiny bit of the oil actually in it or nothing at all of that
Right.
oil. So you're buying crap and it's actually dangerous for you. There's only two companies I trust. One of them starts with a little d, and they do not like people to tell, say their name or whatever, that they're using their oils to make their own blends, because, that's a thing. And the other company is a really awesome company called De Rosiers International. And it's an actual, and there's a link from my page to her page, like in the part that says etc. If you find something on my page that says etc.
Well, there's a lot to roam around. There's a lot to look at.
Yeah. Oh
Okay.
my gosh.
Yeah.
There was a teacher involved in this. And I know a lot of stuff. But and their oils have been really tested, and they're very, very good. So I use their oil. I like the energy of their oils. But mostly the little D one that I use. I just started using the De Rosier lady. And then I make stuff. So I started with the headache balm for me because I needed it. And I started with I'm okay because of stress. And then the throat spray. I can speak spray. And those were my three go-tos when I was teaching all the time. I just lather myself up in the morning, and then everybody was like, well, what are you doing that you're like all going through life all rosy, and we're like freaking out. And I'm like, well, here, this is what I use. And then they're like, can you make me one? And I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
So,
And I think you even say in there, you call it your magic, they're even calling that room, I am assuming it's that room, the magic room, or one of them, because you put random million people in a sphere while you make up each recipe to help those million of them. And every blend, every balm gets an energy healing session. So it's truly meant to heal.
It really is. So this is my new magic room. Originally, the blend started in my California, in the Los Angeles place, and I had all my stuff there. Nobody could enter. It was funny. And that it was like my clients and customers would go in there, and they'd leave out of there happy. Like it was just amazing. They couldn't believe that all this worry was gone. So they're like, wow, I want to go to Carmen's magic room again. And so, I'm like, I'm going to need me a sign on the magic room. But yeah, and I put, because why not? If you can do something, why not put the extra coolness, Yeah. And so, yeah, while they're solidifying, I just send frequencies of please help this person with, headaches or whatever. And I actually also ask the universe to help them with whatever they need to, that's all they have this balm for. So if I have a headache balm, but I have a boo-boo on my arm, and that's the only headache balm that's in my purse, and then so I'm like, just put a little headache balm on your boo-boo, it'll help, because I put it in there that it will help you with anything you need, because people are not going to carry 10 things around with them.
You've got quite a few. You've got I'm okay balm, your stress and anxiety, your lip balm, the headache balm we just talked about, your bruise balm.
Yeah, because I am an accident. I am an accident.
An all-purpose balm.
That works for kids.
It works for kids.
Well, all the balms are for kids. My kids are four-legged.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Works for the animals.
It works for the four-legged kids too.
Oh, perfect. Now, where do you put, because some of them are really furry, where do you put some of that?
So like, let's say my little Opal, she was so small, and over here there's just Yeah, we live on a mountain, so she would get scratched up. So I would just like put that on her scratches,
Okay.
or like
Yeah,
on
yeah.
her paws or whatever. You just kind of move the fur around and then you just put that on there so that way nothing gets infected. I call that one my first aid because that
That's,
was the one that I normally would have.
and that's the all-purpose one?
The all-purpose, yeah.
Yeah. You got your extra achy balm, breaky balm, your cough and
Yep.
congestion. You have one that's just for women, basically, because of the hormones, the cramps and so forth.
Yep.
And eczema, and then a neuropathy. So, I mean, like you've kind of thought about some, and I'm sure there's more to come, depending on whatever comes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, basically the balms came out of the blends. So many people were asking me about, can you make me a blend for neuropathy? And then well, especially the eczema one. Like they would come to me with like all kinds of things that the doctor said was eczema. And I'm like, that makes no sense. I mean, what exactly is eczema? So when I actually made the eczema balm, I was like, okay, any kind of skin stuff. If you have a skin problem,
Yep.
no matter what it is, this will help somehow. Now, will it maybe take the whole thing away? Maybe not, because it might not have been, intuitive for quite that. And I only put a million people in my head because that's all I could fit. And that's how my brain works. It's just
Only.
that's so well, so
You're
maybe that
funny.
million and one,
I
it
know.
might not, you know. And then the same thing with like neuropathy, there's all kinds of different kinds of pain.
Right.
But I was using like it'll help with your nervous system to
Right.
like help some of that. So you might be able to use these balms to help you with something that you have that might be similar, and it would still totally work. I was just trying to get what would be an
Well,
identifier
it's kind of
for.
the first step, right? It's the first
Yeah.
step. And everybody has
And
to start with that first step.
yeah, and most of these, well, all of these actually, the
Mhm.
balms came after the blends, and I still make blends just for people. I still have people ask me, can you make me a 5 milliliter or a 10 milliliter blend for blah, 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 blah. And then I do, and I mail it to them. And then there's no balm for that. But these were the most common. So I figure the most common, let's just help everybody
Right.
because it's cheaper actually than to get a blend made. And it's easier to get on, and
Right.
so that's how that
Well,
all.
well, Carmen, this has been beautiful. And of course, the first time that we reconnected on the phone, we were on there for a little while too. But
Yeah.
in one of your closing statements, you say, I am grateful and blessed to be doing my share to facilitate the transformation of the planet and the ascension process by helping to bring people back into their neutral and optimal state of balance, wholeness, and vitality. When
Yep.
you know who you are and what you are, things flow with ease and joy. And I want to say we are thankful for you and thankful for
Well,
the opportunity to share your light and your mission, your gifts, and how you exude. You just make people want to work on themselves and feel better because
yay.
you're a living testimony.
Yeah.
Honestly, the most effective healers many times have gone through it on their own, and their journey
Yeah.
is what it'll all be different. And it's the journey too that will resonate with many people out there dealing with their stories as well.
Yep. And there's nobody that came to this earth all perfect already.
No,
It's a if somebody thought, and I'm not perfect, man, I am a work in progress, and it depends on the day.
aren't we all?
Some
Yeah,
days more than others. But underneath it
yeah,
all, learning who you are.
yep,
And then if things flow easily, then you're going in the right direction, is what I
right,
always tell people.
right.
If you're constantly bumping up against stuff, then you've got to look at things because you're in charge of your universe. So somehow you are doing that stuff to yourself. And
Yep.
so just taking responsibility. And then as soon as you notice things going downhill, you're like, okay, wait, stop. What
Yeah,
did I do? And then switch. It's okay to change your road. It's
right.
okay to change your
Yeah,
path. Nobody says anything is set in stone.
yep,
So
yep.
then you end up like me, who smiles a lot, and even when she's grumpy, it's
Yeah.
you know.
It's like we say, it causes you to reassess and to figure out how to get out of your own way, because mostly we are our own worst enemy when it comes to what we
Exactly.
want to do. So again, the tools are in the toolbox. You just have to reach the one that is going to help you. And I appreciate all.
Pixie tail.
I know we figured that a fur baby or two would be coming into the picture today. So thank you so much. I know you're a busy person. You have all kinds of stuff to do, and I appreciate your time. And I will be putting all the information for Carmen down underneath in the description box, her website, which does have her email and her, all that kind of stuff. So you can contact her directly. She is, always willing to help you. And if you want to, you can send to my email, which will be attached as well, any questions or anything you would like us to talk about more specifically. We'd be happy to do that as well. Because Carmen's all about teaching, as we know, and you have a thirst for learning, so that's wonderful. So,
and I talk a lot.
Yeah, well, that's
Carmen
okay.
talks a lot.
It's really how we learn, is to keep having that hunger, and you're never going to know it all. So that's where it goes. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And Carmen, you have a wonderful rest of the day. And anyway, until the next time, I hope you have a great morning, evening, afternoon, whatnot. So take care, everyone. Bye-bye.